Where's my motivation or my key light? What can I control, or more importantly, what can't I control? And how am I gonna create depth? Those are three of the questions I asked myself before shooting this overnight music video for Jason Isbell. He's even ended up with over 500,000 views on VEVO. Here, let's get into it. Growing up, I'm a product of the MTV and VH1 music video days. Some might say the glory days of the music videos. Times where we would sit down and check out music videos on our TV. Now fast forward years later as we transition into the YouTube world, going through all those official bracketed music videos, or where you capitalize them or don't capitalize them. But if you forget all that, you realize that the number one brand for music videos or platform was VEVO. And if you had told me that I would have an opportunity to shoot a music video that ends up on that platform, I wouldn't believe it. But here we are. We did an overnight music video with all of the challenges of an overnight music video. Biggest one being, you're running out of time. There's a very specific time clock, and during the summer, one of the shortest time clocks for how much available darkness you have at your fingertips. Once the sun starts coming up, you kind of lose the illusion of the music video. Before we get into all that, got some coffee. Caldi's from St. Louis. What's up? Peru Cajamarca, maybe? If you stick around at the end, I've got a little pro tip on how to use a unique battery solution for LED powered practical lights. If you ever shot an overnight, it can definitely be tricky. Just from navigating the energy levels of crew, plus all of your conveniences, whether is it the catering services or last minute runs to big stores or whatever you might need. But beyond that, not a lot of us see certain places at night often, Yes, we did location scouts, which really helped us be prepared for what we're walking into, but you spend way more time in these areas during the day than you do at night, so things just feel a little bit unfamiliar. And then of course, just working around your equipment, you're always gonna need your headlamps and all that kind of stuff. Those are just a few of the challenges that most of us deal with during overnight productions, but for this one, we were up against a time crunch and of course a budget constraint. And just because the budget's a little tight doesn't mean you can't walk away with beautiful footage. I'm hoping this will help me speak a little smoother. I don't want to besmirch any brand, but let's just say this is not my favorite. But I think one of the biggest differences that you come up against when you're doing overnight productions is that you don't have that reliable key source you do during the day. When you don't have a big budget and you can't fake a moon or create large ambient top sources, you're going to be stuck with what's available. But don't worry, there's good ways to make available light look great. Here, let's get into it. First thing, when you have an overnight production, you gotta figure out where your light's gonna be motivated from. On the Scout, we found this gas station location that offered a very cool, very broad, soft tube style lighting for their awning, where you pump your gas. And the color temperature alone was something we were drawn towards. This is a time for it to feel eerie in the scenes, and we knew that this could become our motivated key source for when we have the girls on the bike, ride by. We introduced this kind of creepy character who has this magical backpack in the back of his truck, and using that as our key source is the starting ground for everything. When you're not dealing with big condor cranes or we're able to put up big lights, we're not going to be able to motivate and create this fake moonlight. So we really had, and we were very reliable on what locations had to offer. And this could be something as simple as headlights of a truck, or this could be just street lamps, businesses, house lights. Using those as your motivated key source to use whatever sort of light you may have is the trick. For me, motivating light sources is way more important than crafting a perfect, key and edge light. And then of course there's tricks within that motivated light. Like the guy in the truck bed at the gas pump, hypothetically he's pumping gas, but if he was actually pumping gas, he'd be a lot closer to the pump and the light would be a lot more toppy, covering his face, and I didn't want that. So we just cheated the truck further away. Imagine if this is the gas pump, we cheated his truck out here so the light would fall just onto his back shoulders because he's facing out to where the girls are riding their bike. You know, it's one of the ways we can use the light source to our favor. It's just about moving the positions of the people or the camera to use that motivated light source. And I think it worked. But to get a wrap around, we either bounced light back in or we had a Gemini out far away on a combo, just kind of returning that same quality of light. A bonus pro tip, if you're doing practical lamps or practical lights or motivated lights for nighttime stuff, definitely get yourself some LEDs so you can at least get close to matching whatever that source is. It's definitely a better idea to try to match your lighting sources. So I think it would have looked a little bit weird if I was pushing tungsten right at his face where he's got all this blue kind of cool, I don't know what the exact temperature was, but probably like 4,500 degrees Kelvin, maybe 56. It all depends on what their lights were, but trying to match those definitely is easier to do with LEDs. I mentioned earlier that one of the main things we have to look for is what you can control or what you can't control. Like for us, we had permission to use this gas station, but we didn't have permission to turn off all the lights. So we asked, hey, can we just put up some black wrap to cover up some of these lights? Sometimes when you're blocking light sources, but it's gonna be seen on camera, you're gonna have to do a pretty nice job so that it looks good. In the heat of the moment, and of course the late of the hour, we kind of did a little bit of rush job on this 1 or 2 lights that were falling on the back side of the gas station. If we would have let those lights be on and just let it hit the back wall, sure, it would be fine, but then that wall would be a whole lot brighter than my subjects, and you're no longer looking at my subjects, you're looking at that wall. So I needed to cut the light off that wall so that my subjects could catch some of that key source coming from the overhead of the gas pumps and whatever Gemini we push back in. These are some of those little tips and tricks you gotta learn about what you can and can't control. I think what you can't control bleeds really well into how you're creating depth. If you had full control and you pan the camera and this is a beautiful tree line, whatever, but there's no practical sources there, but you're like, no worries, we can put a condor up and backlight these trees and now you've got another layer, that's great. But for this type of run and gun projects, we're also looking at where can we create depth. So move the camera around here, oh look, there's some street lamps down there and that house light is on and there's some more layers going on, so that when we're using this low light camera, not only will we see these subjects, but there's more interest just beyond them. Not a big fan of looking at a black blob when you're doing nighttime stuff. And that's why nighttime stuff can be very expensive. We kind of accomplished what we were going for. And it's a music video, we're having fun. And yeah, that's the main point, have fun. Some of those 3 tips are, where can you motivate light? What can or can't you control? And how can you create some depth? And many times it's just about finding those angles. And here's a little pro tip from a creative solution I came up with when the director asked me, hey, I need this backpack to glow. So here's a little pro tip when you're on a budget and you got a night scene and your director has just asked you to make a backpack glow. Well, for me, the solution that I came up with was to use computer battery backups as my portable power solution. It dawned on me during pre-production that anytime your power goes out and your computer's plugged into those power banks, it switches the power over real quick and keeps your computer running. For however big those power battery banks are, your computer could run for hours. Our problem was we needed a solution that would fit inside of a backpack and last at least enough time for us to capture these scenes. Now we're shooting throughout the night and this light wasn't just like an insert shot, it was a practical source that we needed. So I had to go and source, I don't know, maybe a half dozen of them. Now this was on a tight budget, so I may or may not have kept those after we were done with production, or I may or may not have perfectly put them back in the plastic boxes, ties, gently returned them after borrowing them from whatever big box store we found them from. Allegedly, potentially. But it wasn't a perfect solution. It was pretty heavy. It did allow us to have these LED lights glow and make this backpack glow. It was a white backpack that with a red light and this battery back, it was able to push through that white canvas backpack and onto the talent, fill up a room, illuminate their face. But anytime the camera looked at that backpack, it kind of looked like a hot white source. And that was the trade-off. You know, the Red Gemini did a great job with the low light and just in general low light scenarios, where we could see into certain shadows and maybe catch more tree lines than we would have if we shot on, let's say, film. But film would have definitely turned that highlight roll off into whatever pure color was coming off and not immediately converted it to a white. That's one of the main differences between our digital and film days. And this was something that we tested, and of course we didn't test the film, but we went between a Blackmagic or Red Gemini, and I don't know if we had access to an Alexa Mini at the time, but we knew that the low light solution for that Red Gemini and paired with these nice Leica lenses was gonna be the solution regardless. I may be the first person who's ever thought of, hey, let's use battery backups as a power solution for LED power, and I may not be the last. Now, things have gotten better, and those portable battery solutions from like Jackery or Anchor have gotten smaller, but this is what we had with at the time what we had. Overall, I'm happy with what it did when they were riding around on the bikes, and I'm happy that it illuminated their faces, and we got really creative with other practical solutions. But all in all, next time you're challenged from the director of coming up with a creative solution, maybe give battery backups a shot. All right, back to it. So when it comes to night shoots, here's the 3 takeaways. You gotta understand where your motivation's coming from. And whether that be a headlamp or overheads at a practical location, some street lamps, or even the moonlight. Granted, that would be as if you had enough production equipment to continue to motivate that moonlight, or let's say a firelight, or heck, maybe even you want to give the old backpack battery light a try. Finding your motivation is the start. Second, you've got to understand what you can control, and sometimes more importantly, what you can't control. Let's say there's a factory out in the distance and it's always lit up at night and you don't want all that exposure. Well, then it looks like you're panning the camera the other direction and you don't want to look that direction. Or maybe it's just logos on buildings, or maybe there's a highway and it's constantly having traffic cross and you don't want to see all that changing of light. Understand what you can and what you can't control. And then third, it's all about finding the layers. From practical lights in the background to maybe those headlamps of cars to whatever it is. But if you're just panning the camera and there's a black blob, it's not gonna be as dynamic or interesting. One little takeaway, on this production, there was a practical train coming by when we were out at the skate park with the 2 talent, and thinking in total Super 8 movie, Steven Spielberg style, production value. We ran and took a 1200D, I think, just got it hidden either by trees or just out of frame, and front illuminated that train. Just so that, hey, it was Super 8 style and it was production value. Did it really add anything to the story? No, but it was cool. And we're making a music video and there's a train going by. And if we didn't add any light there, you wouldn't see it. So we just needed a little bit of lift, and as I said, just go super broad, make sure that it doesn't hit the ground, and let it light up that train. So sometimes it's just being reactive to that as well. Motivation, what you can control, and light and layers. If you want to see more of my work, you can check out Steven C. Greathouse. Thanks for watching. Peace. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks. Peace.